I mean, okay. Okay. So, hey everyone, welcome to today's episode. It's so special. I'm your host Reem for today, and today we're flipping the script. Normally, I co-host with Michael Cups, but today he's in the hot seat. We're diving into a game-changing concept for leaders who feel pulled in 100 directions, and we're going to talk about the priority matrix. Michael, first of all, do you want to tell us what the show sponsored by who?
Yes, of course, it's Time Bandit. And you can find out more information at timebandit.io, where we can read about the book, the app, and the coaching programs. But I wanted to mention a special thing that we're going to announce soon. It'll be I'll launch a video here as soon as I can. We've embedded HabitBee, the AI coach, into the app. So if you're using the mobile app and you want to go get advice, like what we're talking about today with priorities, then you can go ask HabitBee about the task you have that day, and it will help you sort out the prioritization of those tasks. It's obviously geared to help you identify the habits to build and the tasks you need to do to build those habits. And so we're excited. I'm excited because we've had both things, and now we're putting them together so you have one place to go, not only manage your days, but also get advice on your days. So time
Wow,
in.
sounds very nice.
Yes. Yes.
Awesome. So, Michael, let's get straight into it. Let's talk about why prioritization matters first place.
Well, I think to some people it's obvious because they just feel like they get at the end of the day and they go, "Wait a minute, I didn't do that thing, or I didn't do those three things that I meant to do, or I thought I had enough time to get it done and I didn't." And so we have so many to-do lists. It seems like we have a to-do list for work, and we have a to-do list for home, and then we have to-do lists in our email system, and they're everywhere. So we just get pulled in so many directions. If you can get your priority structure down, you're going to actually have a little more calmness in your day, which will allow you to actually accomplish more. And it's going to give you that time back to know where to spend your time. So I think it's really about kind of just taking that chaos that is everyday life and finding your own way through it in a peaceful way.
I agree. Well, we're all juggling between millions and millions of things, to-do lists and meeting lists, a lot of things, and not everything deserves our time. But can we talk about what happens when business leaders actually get it wrong or get the prioritization wrong?
Yeah. Well, if you've ever had that notion where your boss calls you and says, "Where's that report?" or "Where's that thing?" and you don't have it ready. I mean, that's the first thing that could happen if your priorities are out of alignment. But the bigger thing is you just feel like you're not where you need to be. Whether you're customer facing and you're not getting everything done for your customers, or maybe you're customer facing and you do everything for your customers, but you don't do the other things that you need to do to make your job complete. Or you spend too much time at work and not at home, or too much time at home and not at work. There's just a number of things that business leaders and business people need to understand, that there are things you should work on, and they take a priority, hence the word priority matrix. And there's things that you can either schedule for later, or you just need to stop doing it, and we're going to talk a little bit later, I think, Reem, about saying no. And so that's a very valuable thing in this, because we do find ourselves doing low value work when there's high value work that needs to be done, right? So
And this brings us to our next thing, actually. Most people confuse the urgent with important,
mhm.
because we just spend a lot of time doing something that is important but not urgent, and that's where the chaos starts.
Yeah.
Can you go on, sorry.
No, I think you're right. I think people do get confused with urgency a lot, because what happens is you get a ding on your phone, or you get an email come in, and all of a sudden our attention from what we were doing goes to that. And that thing may that alert, that being on opened up that email, may be completely useless or senseless, or it may just maybe a long email, so we spend reading it, and we took ourselves away from what we were concentrating on, and all of a sudden now we're trying to get our mind back into what we are doing. And so urgency is an interesting element, because there are things that are truly urgent, right? And we need to take care of them. But there's also this false sense of urgency that we kind of have built up over time, because of devices, or because of the boss said so, or somebody told you to do something. And what we don't always have the system to do is say, okay, I need to do that. I get it. And I acknowledge it, but I have to do this first because this has some sort of importance to it. And so it's really about, and that really comes into the subtlety of why it's hard to prioritize, is because there's so many things pushing on us, right? Or pulling, maybe pulling's a better way to say it. But that urgency, getting urgency wrong is the biggest reason priorities fail.
Agree. And regarding the the notification sound, I turn off my phone when I'm in the 25 minutes of concentration, just like
Yeah.
you actually advised me to do. And I've been
Yeah.
getting things done actually.
Yes. So what you're practicing there, as you know, is the Pomodoro technique, and it is a fantastic method to do deep work. And just what you said, 25 minutes, nothing interrupts me, right?
Yeah.
And that's perfect. Then you take a break, and if you need to do another 25, you can, or you can get on to the other things. So I'm glad to hear you doing that. And has it helped?
Helpful. Yeah, very much because I'm stuck to my phone. My phone is always in my hand, and sometimes I just find myself that I've been spending the next 30 minutes and I was in the middle of writing something, but something appears and I'm just stuck into my phone for like the
Yep.
next 30 minutes
Yep.
and day ends and I didn't get anything done. So,
Yep.
yeah, it
Well,
helped a lot.
what you just made a decision on, when you start that Pomodoro timer, what you made a decision on is what you're working on is the most important and most urgent thing of that 25 minutes. And that's the power, because what you also are giving yourself is you're giving yourself grace, you're giving yourself permission, whatever word you want to use, that's all you're going to focus on for 25 minutes. And believe it or not, that does so much for your brain. That allows you to focus. It allows you to be more creative, and your brain doesn't. While it can handle distractions, the way it chemically makes up that you can focus more, and you're going to be more rewarded for it over time. People just have kind of forgotten that, so they think multitasking is cool, right?
It is cool, but not very cool.
Right, right. Well, and it's also, could you have been better at one of those things than both of those things, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree with that. Can you real quick break down the priority matrix for those who aren't familiar with it?
Yep. So in the book, I didn't invent this theory or this process. It's actually, I use the Eisenhower matrix as the construct, and there's a lot of people that use it and love it. And the concept is, if you think about four quadrants, right? So you've got, if you just take a piece of paper and draw a cross in it, kind of, and there's four crosses. In the upper left is, you write urgent and important, right? And then in the upper right, it is still important, because that's the axis here, and you put not urgent on that. So you've got urgent, important, important but not urgent. Those are the top two quadrants. The lower two quadrants are urgent but not important, or important and not important, not urgent, right? And that's an important quadrant, even though you won't have many things in it, hopefully. So it's a four quadrant system. The idea is that you focus on the important and urgent things first. You schedule things that are not urgent but important, and you delegate things that are urgent but not important. Urgent, not important. And then lastly, not important, not urgent, are things that you just want to stop doing. So
We'll make sure to add a graph of that in the
yes, yes,
comments
yes,
so no one gets lost of all the important, not important
yes.
sections, so we can actually follow it in the future.
Absolutely. I can send you a PDF of just the framework there.
Awesome. Okay, can you actually tell me what are the biggest mistakes leaders make when trying to prioritize their work?
Yeah. Yeah. I think let's start with importance first. So importance is something sometimes that, certainly we know a project is bearing down on us. We have to get a proposal out by Tuesday at 4, or we have to be ready to go into a presentation to present to a group, on Wednesday morning, whatever. Those are obviously, urgency is pushing the importance up the ladder, and that's okay, because it is an event at some point that you are going to have to do there. So when you think about importance, it does have that timing effect on it, right? So urgency does drive it in, but importance could also mean something like your kids have a play at school, or they have you need to go visit your mother who may be ill, or something like that. So importance can hijack other things, and it should, when it's the right thing. So based on your value system, you're going to have to frame out where that importance comes in. And sometimes importance doesn't mean that if it's further down the list, doesn't necessarily mean it's not important to you. It just means that there are two other things that are more important and more urgent ahead of it, right? So the biggest downfall people have is just misjudging those things, because just think about it. And the thing you have to think about when something happens, you get an email from a customer, maybe, and that customer says, I need you to send me this thing, whatever that thing is, right? But now, do you stop what you're doing, which may be something that has more importance? Not to say that customer's not important, but do you stop what you're doing and send it to them? Or do you think to yourself, you know what? I'm going to send that tonight, or I'm going to send it in 2 hours. And that's how you push things off, because if they don't get that presentation in the next 5 minutes, does it really matter? If it's in the 2 hours, it's going to be just fine, right? So there's usually this kind of gauge of importance and urgency that's really kind of foreign to some people, because they just do what they're told next. And so you really have to say, to answer your question, you said, what's the most important thing? I think the most important thing is to learn your evaluation system. How are you evaluating what's most important and what's urgent? Because until you kind of get that working through your own mind and instinctively know to put things off or jump ahead, you're just going to struggle with it. And so the best way you can do that is build a habit around prioritization. And we can get to that later if you want to talk about it. But it is really internalize how you gauge, how you score things, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the measurement of urgency then.
Well, and we've talked about values, right? So if your values are make a lot of money, or spend a lot of time with your kids, which may be diametrically opposed, but kids may be more important to you, so you're willing to stop work or find a different job that you can spend more time with your kids. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's what's important to you, and it's based on your own values.
Well, it's one thing to understand the concept, but another to apply it. Of course,
Absolutely.
it takes practice,
Yes.
and also practicing what to stop, or like what is the urgent and what is important, is just gonna take time. So, how do we start using priority matrix daily, and how can we actually start doing that and
Yeah.
incorporate it in our daily life?
Yep, absolutely. And that's the hard part, right? Because it's easy to kind of sit down and think about the things that are on my list today and put them in the right quadrant, right? That's a pretty easy step. And then life happens. You're right. Something blows up, a customer calls, whatever happens. Um, and then we're off our list. Now we're on to something else. And so the best way to stick to it is to build a daily habit of reviewing your priority matrix on a daily basis. And once you get really good at it, it's 5 minutes tops, right? And obviously the Time Bandit app has the matrix in there. And when you enter a task, you do two things. You say, is it important? And is it urgent? And when you just toggle that little thing, it will automatically put it in the matrix that applies. Now, the other thing I want people to do is to associate a role with it. Is it personal? Is it business? Is it aspirational? Right. And the reason we want that is so you can start looking at your to-do lists, so to speak, in view of your whole health, your whole body self, right? Are you achieving something that you aspirationally want to do? Are you taking care of your personal life and your work life on equal balance? So that's what happens in the app. On paper, you can do the same thing. It's a little more difficult, but from a to-do list perspective, it's easy to have that 4 quadrants and just what's important and urgent for you today, what's important but not urgent, so you're going to schedule it for later. So just put it in the matrix. Say, call Reem tomorrow at 2:30 or whatever. And so that's how when you get in that habit of doing that daily, and you can either do it in the morning. I'd personally do it in the morning because I like to see my day ahead of me. And I plan my day accordingly. But some people like to do it in the evenings, which is fine, because then they kind of recap, and then they think about tomorrow, right? And that puts them at ease about what they have to do tomorrow. So it really doesn't matter as long as you get in the habit of doing it. Some people say they want to do it weekly, and I think you can do that if you're just focused on longer range tasks. If you have daily tasks that can change, it probably is going to fail because everything's an interruption at that point. So.
Well, I have another question, which is, what do we do if something pops up like unexpected? Where do we put it? in the matrix?
Yeah, well, it depends on that importance level, right?
Okay.
So let's say that it is something that your parent calls and your father's ill. That's very important that you tend to that, right? And maybe it supersedes everything else on your list from work, and you do what you need to do to help your father, right? So that's an extreme example. Hopefully, we don't have people getting sick every day, but the point being is that was a no-brainer, right? Up, I gotta go. I gotta go take care of my father. So there you go. That importance level is there. Now in work, it becomes somewhat a little more gray because which one's more important than the other, and you have to kind of have this scale of what are you willing to push down a little further, even though it's still important and urgent, but you still have to do this first. And it's going to have to be your own scale that you do that with. If you're customer facing, it could be that a customer needs something right away. Or they want to talk to you right away, so you need to pause and get on the phone with them and have a discussion. So you're still gonna have to rank those, but you're gonna have to do them quickly and then also once you do that task, get back to the highest priority item next, right? As opposed to going and talking to somebody. Can you believe that customer called? That's just gonna waste more time. Get back to your priority list as opposed to something else. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. It does. Can this framework help us delegate better? Like delegate more?
Yes, I think so. I think so. And that's what I loved about having Nandan on our show last week or whenever it was, because with the advent of AI that is in our hands now, not just AI has been around for a while, but now it's in everyone's hands. And automation, you can delegate more and more than we ever could, right? But delegation is an interesting thing because we think we're absolving ourselves from it, and it's not really the case. We may be delegating certain steps of a process to somebody. We may be delegating the whole thing to somebody or something. But either way, it could just be assisted delegation, right? So let's say that you are preparing to interview me today, and you think, okay, you know what? I'd like to go get AI to go out and find the top 5 questions people ask about priority matrices. And it'll come back. You may like them, you may not like them, but that you delegated a bit of that task off to AI to just give you some ideas, right? Perfectly normal thing nowadays, right? And that's good. We used to probably Google it, right? But the AI can be more, you can ask it a very specific question. So that's somewhat delegating, but you're still going to make the decision on what questions you choose to ask. So that's an example about delegation. Delegation it has a kind of a bad name to it. I think when we think delegate, that feels kind of a negative. I don't know why that word has become negative, but it's not always. It's a matter of just getting the right things and people or systems in place to do something more efficiently.
Delegation it is. AI.
That's it. And it may not be the whole thing, right? If you're thinking about a long project, maybe what you're doing is I don't know, you're building a brochure for your business, right?
Hmm.
That you need to post. And there is a step that's delegated to graphic design. And that's not your expertise. So it's delegated off and it's off your priority matrix until it comes back. And then you decide based on the urgency of it, we need to have this by next Wednesday, then it's up in your importance and urgency, right? But when it's off, right? That's an important thing because you're freeing your mind of those things.
Yes, I agree. Um, well, you said busy, 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 and a lot of people love just being busy, and they take pride in being busy. It feels good to be busy, but busy doesn't always mean productive. What's the biggest mindset shift leaders need to make to start working smarter, not just harder?
Say no. That's the biggest shift that people need to do. So think about this. COVID happened and we all learned to be on Zoom calls or Teams calls or whatever system you use. And now, and even then, it seemed to be a badge of honor if you were on 6 straight calls or 7 straight. I was on 7 straight calls. Look at how busy I am, right? Okay, you're on 7 calls, which took a matter of, let's say, 5 hours. How productive were you in those 5 hours? If you go back and look at a transcript, maybe you only contributed for 2 minutes of a 30-minute meeting. So you just lost 28 minutes of time that you could have been focused on something more meaningful than that, right? And so I think being able to say no is an incredibly powerful thing. And that's an example of, do we need to attend every meeting we're invited to? Probably not. When we're planning a meeting, do we need to invite everybody in the department? Probably not. So we can start saying no to in increments, right? So Reem could say, you know what, that's an interesting topic. I'll catch the video afterwards. I'm gonna decline that meeting, right? And you can go watch the video. The nice thing about watching videos, you can speed it up one time, 1.5, etc. So there's ways of saying no, and there's also, and saying no is a challenge because we've been taught in business to say yes to that. You say yes, you get promoted. If you're the go-getter, we call it, then you get more attention. Well, saying yes to everything is going to deplete you of your capabilities, and your work is going to start to suffer because you're trying to say yes to everything. So learning to say no is the single biggest thing people can say. And I want to caveat that with one subtlety to it. If you feel like you need to say yes, then try this little trick. Yes, but not right now. And that will change the way that things happen. If you can verbally, if you can't say no to that person asking you to be on a meeting or asking you to help them with a presentation, yes, I'm happy to help you, but not right now. And let's schedule it, or let's get some time at a time that we can really focus and make it the right thing. And so if you don't want to say no, say yes, but not now. So
That's a lovely workaround.
yeah.
I've been personally practicing my nose, and it took me a lot to actually perfect a no. Like
Yes.
I know I'm gonna be asked a certain question that I need to say no to because I'm already busy doing other things, and I just keep saying, just say no, and I say yes, I can do it,
Yeah.
hopefully. But
No, and
I go
go
on.
ahead. That's great. Keep on.
No, but I was saying that I'm gonna use this workaround because I usually, my mindset is set that I'm gonna say no, but I end up saying yes because all of the things you just said. Because if you say yes, you're a hard worker, you're someone that loves working, a go-getter, everything. So I'm gonna use this workaround. No, yes, but maybe not right now. So
Yeah. Yeah. So, and when it, for me, it really is hard is when there's somebody that's new in your business or whatever that may be, and they're trying to learn, right? And they're just, you can tell that they are genuinely interested and they're trying to learn, and they come to you and you're in the middle of something and they say, I could really use your help. I don't understand this. And everything in our being tends to say, okay, let me help you, right? Because we want to help. But and if you say no, then you're just viewed as rude, right? But
Mhm.
that's where you can say, yes, I can't wait to help you with that. But if you give me 30 minutes, an hour, 2 days, or if we schedule time on Tuesday, we can really go through it in detail, and you're going to learn a bit more, right?
Yeah.
It maybe doesn't help them through what they're trying to do right now, but at least they know, they feel important, and it's
Mhm.
something you want to do anyway. You want to help them. It's just an easier way of saying no right
Mhm.
now. So,
But how can we actually make peace with not doing everything, or how can
well,
leaders make peace with not doing everything?
that's a great question, and I don't know that I have the answer, other than you think about high value, low value things, right? And yes, I can do everything, but what does it do for the business or for me or whatever it is? And if it's very low value, then we just have to stop doing it. Right. And it's a hard lesson to learn. High value things we want to do more of, low value things we want to do less of. That's kind of not really math. It's the smart thing to do. But if you really look back at all the things you did last week, there's probably a lot of low value things that just really aren't important to your business, right? And you just got to figure out a way to ease your way out of them. And I think the way that I have done it in my career is I think about this notion of failing fast, right? So you do want to try things, and you do want to do new things for your business, but make sure you have an exit if it's not delivering the results you want early enough, right? And I'm not saying try something once and stop. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying really evaluate the activity, the amount of time it's taking, and is it going to deliver back to you what is necessary for your business to be successful? And I'm putting that in business terms. That could be personal as well, right? So
That was a great answer. You had the answer to my question.
It's just hard to articulate.
But you did well. So, it's easy to try something new for a week and then slip back into old habits. And we've been talking about habits nonstop,
Mhm.
you and I, over
Mhm.
and over and over again. We've
Yeah.
been going through the building a habit framework, breaking a habit framework, and we can actually also put these in the comments if someone is looking for them. But my next question is actually, how can leaders turn the priority matrix into a sustainable habit?
Yeah.
Any quick practical tips or tools you'd recommend?
Yeah. Yeah. So in the book, I drew this flow chart, and some people told me the flow chart's kind of hard to understand, but the concept behind it was to habitize everything you can, so it doesn't become something on your to-do list, right? So if you think about, here's something that comes in and we look at it and we need to evaluate it on a couple of planes. Number one is, can it be a habit? Clearly, right? If you do the same thing every morning, the first thing you do is this, whatever that is, write a report, do whatever, then that can become a habit. It doesn't need to be on your to-do list at all, right? Then there are things that we have to do for our job. If you're a claims adjuster, you have to adjust 12 claims a day. If you're a loan origination person, maybe you have to write 3 loans a day. Whatever the metric is, I would call those business as usual. Again, you don't necessarily want those on your priority matrix. You want them scheduled on your calendar as business as usual, and you always do them at certain times of the day, right? And then the next things are, okay, now these are to-do lists. These are kind of exceptions to my habits or my things. Those you run through the priority matrix and you deal with those according to importance and urgency. So the more you can habitize things, another word might be systemize things, the more efficient you're going to be, because you can stack those things. You get in a rhythm and you can just get them done. You hear that a lot, right? I was in a rhythm and I really was knocking things out, right? Okay. The reason is those are probably habitual things that you can do quickly. So make them habits, schedule time for them appropriate, time block, whatever you need to do, and get them done. And so that's the thing. And then the other thing I would say about making priorities a habit would be what we talked about just a couple of minutes ago, and say, make the habit of every morning you review your matrix, or every evening, whatever frequency works for you and whatever time works for you, but just evaluate those priorities. Because the thing about priorities, they change. If you think about the two things that we talk about, importance and urgency, well, time changes those, right? So, and
Yeah.
sometimes time changes them to be unimportant. I've had things on my to-do list that were there for a week or two, and then you're like, oh, maybe that's not really important. And
Mhm.
I moved those into the quadrant of stop doing, or I parked them. So, there was one thing that I want to write, that I'm looking forward to. It's a book, an ebook thing that I want to write. And I really do want to write it. And it's important to me to a degree. There's no urgency to it, because when I get to it, I get to it. But rather than it being in the way, I just moved it to park. And I'm going to go revisit that in 3 months and say, is now the time that it's more important to me? Right. So that's a good example of using the park quadrant without, um, you know, deleting, if you will. So,
Just parking.
yeah, this park.
One other thing, I don't know what's going on with me today. I'm all about giving. You've mentioned a habit tracking app before, and can you talk about this a bit? We can actually add do your prioritization matrix today as a habit, and we can keep track on it on the app for like getting our matrix done every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, and Time Bandit, we allow you to do two things. It's the priority matrix is there. So if you want to say, I have a task to do something, you, like I said, you'd say it's important or it's urgent, and then it puts it in the quadrant for you. And then you can look at your day. We've got actually created a widget that the widget will come up and say, here's your day. Right. So here are the priorities today, and here are the habits I need to do today. Habits may be go to the gym, make something for my kid, whatever it is. So those habits are there. So then you check those off, right? So
Mhm.
habits are things that you need to think about from a time allocation perspective, but you shouldn't have to think about putting them on your calendar, right? It should be, every day I get up and I walk my dog Oliver, and he knows it because he's the one that asked for it more than I do. But it's part of our habit. And while I'm doing that, then when I come back from that walk, there are 3 or 4 other things I do before I start anything else in the day. Right. And so I've just stacked those. When we come back, one of them may be feed Oliver. The other may be something else for me, maybe something for Catherine, whatever it may be. But those habits just get knocked out. Right. So I'm not scheduling them. I'm just putting them there, and I track them all in Time Bandit. And yes, I care about Time Bandit app. You can get it on Google Play or Apple, but there's other habit tracking apps out there, or nothing wrong with paper. Right? If you're just getting started with habits, just list your habits for the day. And at the end of the day, go and check, or no check. And then you kind of move on from there.
Yeah. Yep. Just a normal paper. We're not going to complicate things.
That'll do it.
I have actually a question because we've been hearing micromanaging a lot. So can you tell us, how can leaders teach their teams to prioritize better without micromanaging?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a big question too. So you want me to answer from the leaders, not micromanaging? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. The best thing I can tell you to do is tell people the result you want and kind of get out of the way. Right now, in order to do that, maybe you have checkpoints for your own sanity. You want to know, because that big thing is due 3 weeks from now, and you want to know that you're making progress. So schedule checkpoints, and those checkpoints are to do two things. How have you been doing? What are you doing next? And what are the problems that you're facing that I might be able to address? Right. And so people listening that maybe know agile development will recognize that. Right. And agile development, I think it's a great construct for any business. Is they have what they call a daily stand-up. And in the daily stand-up, you talk about what you did yesterday, what you're doing today, and what impediments are there in your way of getting that done. Right. Now, you can pull that out to weekly, you can pull that out to whatever time frame you want, but think about what we just did there. Right. We have allowed the person to have the autonomy to do what they need to do, and they can tell us what they've done. They can tell us where they're going next. And if they need your help, they're going to ask for it. Right. And so I think that's a good construct to lay down the priorities, but then let the team breathe to get it done. And sometimes there's going to be underperformers or overperformers and things like that, and that's all things you manage to. That's why you're the manager. But don't feel like you have to do their work, or you're no longer the manager. You're the worker and the manager, right?
So just the end results, huh?
Well, results, but think about the process, though, right? You're helping them in the process. They should feel very comfortable saying, "This is what I did, right? Here's where I am." Let's take an example of a presentation. Here's where I am with the presentation. Today, I'm going to do this part. And what I could really use your help with is, I don't really like these graphics. Can you either help me or get somebody to help me with that, right? That's the way you get projects done, is you're working together and you're moving it through, and you iterate until it's perfect.
That was great.
Okay. we kind of went on a different direction, but I think that hopefully.
Yeah. No, but it answered. But sometimes you actually fall off track with prioritization. What are some warning signs that indicate someone has fallen off track with prioritization?
Yeah, the quickest thing to recognize that is if you're looking at your matrix and all your important and urgent things you didn't scratch those off the list, but you did 5 of the urgent but not important things, right? That means you're just running around in the most urgent things, right? You're just doing the urgent things instead of focused on what's going to give you the biggest impact, right? So how many times have we done it? We've answered emails, and then all of a sudden we're like, gosh, it's 3 p.m., right? And I lost half the day because all I was doing was answering emails. Well, so that's a good indicator you didn't follow your priorities, right?
Yeah. Awesome indicator. I have another big question. Promise it's the final one.
No, I'm enjoying this.
I mean the big ones. So what are the difference between being reactive and proactive in prioritization? Because if I keep on reacting and building all my prioritization on reacting only, what are the difference? Just to cut it short.
Yeah. I think it goes back to that discussion we were having about saying no. So I think that reactive versus proactive is just that. Like, I'm going to help you, Reem, but I can't do it just now. We'll do it then. Right. And so you not only are reacting to what Reem asked me to do, but I'm proactively saying we're going to do better if we do it at this time, because I'll be there in full mind and body. Right. And so if we can do that, that's taking a proactive stance. And then when you look at your to-do list today, your priority matrix, go after that left upper quadrant, because those are the things that you somewhere along the way said they're important and they're urgent. Now you may get to them and you say, you know what, this is no longer as important. So you slide it down. It's still urgent, but and now you see if you can delegate it. But so being proactive, I think, is looking at your day and you're not just your calendar, but your priority matrix, and deciding where you're going to spend your energy. That is the most proactive thing you can do. Is you only have so much time and you only have so much energy, and you've got to choose what to do with it, because you
Spend
don't
them.
get it back. Unfortunately, you just don't get it back.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
How does the priority matrix compare to other productivity methods? Because we've mentioned time blocking, Eisenhower box, we've mentioned a lot of them. Do we do them together? Do I do one and skip one? What do I usually do?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And it always cracks me up when I see on LinkedIn or wherever somebody says, here's the top 20 productivity hacks, and they list all these methodologies. And there's no chance you can do all 20 of those. There's no chance. What you want to do is to understand how you work, right? And understand how your brain works, because everybody has a reward system that's a little different, right? And you got to find the methods that work for you. The Eisenhower matrix may not work for everybody, but then there's the top 3 methodology, or there's eat the frog. There's all sorts of methodologies out there. You've got to find the one that works for you. For example, people are cold plunging all the time now, and they have this get up at 4 and do all these 20 things. I'd be exhausted by 7 if I did all those things, right? But there's 2 or 3 things that might be really good for me to try. So it just with everything, moderation. So for me, I can make a lot of sense of habits, and I try to push everything to habits that I can, and then prioritize the rest. So that works for me. Now, what I do like is the trick you talked about earlier, Pomodoro. So some of the things on your priority matrix require deep thought. So that activates that Pomodoro timer, and just get into it. And then you get to scratch it off your list and move on to the next priority, right?
Yeah.
So I just would say moderation. Find the one that works for you. Listen to other ideas, because there always may be better things come along, but find the ones that work and stick to it. What the worst thing you could do is try the priority matrix today, and the other one tomorrow, and the other one the next day, and the next day, and then you just don't get in a groove with any of it, right?
Yeah, okay. Because I was trying to implement all of them at the same time, and then I
Yeah,
got lost, and I got overwhelmed as well. I was like, oh my god, what do I do now?
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Those how tos, I love them, because I think that's creative that people assemble them and they say, here's the top 10 productivity hacks. I think what would be actually more useful, and I'm going to start trying to do this, I promise, in my LinkedIn especially, is instead of try all these things, I'm going to say how to do something, right? And the first one I wrote, and I'm going to put in a newsletter, is for Gen Z. You may be familiar with those folks. Um, you get into a job, and it's what you studied and you're excited about it, but after a couple of years, maybe it's not what you thought it was, or you want to go try something else. So it's a how-to about considering ways to try a career shift. And so that's what I aspire to do a bit more, and I don't always do it, is to say, if you want to try that, here's how to do it, and not try everything.
On behalf of Gen Zs, we appreciate that because we need it.
Good. Well, I can work on a graphic for it.
Awesome.
So,
Well, Michael, this was been packed with insights. Before we wrap up, if a leader could do just one thing today and start to take control of their priorities and productivity, what would it be?
well, I think I would use the priority matrix, but if you need to, I would say the most important thing is take your to-do list and start differentiating what's on there, right? And if your to-do list is in 4 different places, put it in one place and start differentiating and then start assessing what's important and what's urgent. And that's going to start sorting out some sanity to you and for you. And then go back and say, okay, are those all work items, or are those personal work items and aspirational things? And if it's all work all the time, I'm going to urge you to take a day off and think about personal things and aspirational things you want to do, because you need to blend those. It's not about work-life balance, because balance assumes equal weights. just blend them and figure out the right way to blend them, because that will fulfill you more holistically, which will make you better at your job, make you a better parent or a spouse or whatever, and you can chase your dreams. But without it, you're just going to get out of balance. So write your to-dos down and then start sorting them: important, urgent, and then roll.
That was awesome. Will do. I'm done for today. I don't have any more questions. If you want to add anything or say anything.
Well, you don't have to take it personally, but what about habits? We do talk about habits. We've made a habit of talking about habits. Is there a habit that you started recently that you're really enjoying?
Yeah, very much. We've been talking about quitting my phone or doom scrolling. I've started actually running. I am gonna run a marathon on next June.
Ooh,
So
wow,
there's a
nice.
habit of running and there's a habit of quitting some things. I need to quit a lot of
Yep.
things. I've been smoking and I'm not gonna say that on live, but I already said it. So I'm trying to stop smoking. I need to stop doom scrolling, and I've been starting to take running seriously because I really want to run for a good cause, and this is happening on June. So I will update you next June.
Yes.
I've been using Time
Yes.
Bandit, and it's not because you and I are just here. No, for real, I've been using Time
Yep.
Bandit.
That's awesome.
The AI coach has given me a plan to go through it, and I've been tracking my habits. And yeah, that's it.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Well, congratulations on the marathon decision. I can't wait to cheer you on, even if it's virtually.
I'll get Haitham or someone to like picture me while I'm running or something. Go
Yes, there
live.
you go. That would be awesome. That'd be awesome. Well, that's great. That is fantastic. Those are
Awesome.
all good
Awesome.
things.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for interviewing me today. I enjoyed being on the other. What'd you call it? You said switch.
The
You said
tables has
something
turned.
earlier.
I enjoyed being the
Table has
host
turned.
for today.
Yes, you did a great
Awesome.
job.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much, Michael. Have a great day. Do you want to tell us what is the next episode about?
Yes, I do. It's going to be great. Tabby Kerwin is going to join us, and she is a phenomenal human being who was met with a horrible disaster, and she became a widow, quickly. And she then became a single parent, a single proprietor of her business, and she had to figure out the right way to get all that done. And she's going to tell us her amazing story and advice for anybody facing adversity. And she's also a musician, which Hatham
Awesome.
was.
That's impressive. Tune in, everybody. See you next time.
See you next
Bye.
time. Thank
Thank
you.
you.